Okay, well, the last video I made, it's so weird. I don't understand why this camera does that. But 21 minutes into the video, I was recording for probably 40 minutes, and just 21 minutes into the video, it just stops recording. So it's not the SD card, because it's a 64 gigabyte, I think, card. And it has, I charged my camera to 100%. So I don't know, I don't understand it. I don't know why it does that. But anyways, I was talking about random shit last time, like I always do, nothing to do with motorcycles or anything. This is a road I can guarantee you I've never been on before, making a video. This is like in Renton, Washington. But what I'm curious about, that I see other people sometimes having, is I don't understand the two different types of people that buy these bikes. The brands of bikes that they buy, it's Ducati and Harley Davidson. To me, those are the two bikes that are, and Ducati even more so. Ducati is probably as expensive as Harley Davidson, if not more expensive, and I think their quality is, it's got to be one of the worst, and the parts are not readily available, and it's incredibly expensive to get it repaired, right? There's not a lot of places you can go to have people work on Ducatis, at least professionally. And if you do go there, you know, I can tell you right now that even if you go to a Yamaha dealership, you're gonna get screwed. But the nice thing about Japanese bikes is that they just don't break down as much, and the parts are much more readily available, and they're not as expensive. So, you know, I understand any mechanic, they're gonna, you know, they have overhead, they have to make money. So, you know, just to give you an example, I got a new clutch cable and I didn't want to install it because I probably could have figured it out, but I wanted them to do it correctly and remove the old one the right way and just do it correctly. So they charged me $140 just to install a clutch cable. So probably took, you know, 15 minutes for someone to do who knows what they're doing, and it's $140. So, you know, if you had a serious job, or, you know, not even really a serious job, but just to, you know, change your tires and change your oil and maybe like check your valve clearance, I mean, that's going to be $1,000, not including what the tires are, right? It's like, shit, I only paid $2,500 for the bike. All of a sudden, you know, I put new tires on. They're going to charge me $150 to change the oil. They're going to charge me probably $200 to change the tires. They're going to charge me $500 to do a valve adjustment. And oh, it turns out we didn't have to adjust your valves, but we looked at them. They're good. And then you got to pay tires, which is, you know, if you have a nicer bike, it's going to be $300 for tires, maybe more. My bike's tires are only like 180 bucks where I get them, because they're not like high performance tires. I don't really need that. So I imagine if you have a Ducati, let me know. I mean, if you do have a Ducati and you actually ride it, which there's another thing. I've never seen a Ducati with over like 30,000 miles. Like, I look all the time on Craigslist and Facebook, and I've been looking at stuff online, you know, periodically, a couple times a month probably, at least. Sometimes I don't look for a while, but I'll just go on there and look at stuff that's for sale because I'm interested. And I see Ducatis on there. Most of them just aren't even ridden, and the ones that are ridden have like 15,000 miles maybe, and then the guy that owns it's like, yeah, something's messed up, and it's giving me an error code and it's not working, right? And I don't want to deal with it anymore. I'm getting out of motorcycle riding, you know, or the wife says I have to sell it, or this or that, right? So again, I see Japanese bikes, and even Harley Davidsons. I mean, to give them some credit, people actually ride those bikes and they're somewhat reliable. Harley Davidsons are more reliable by a long shot than Ducati, but they're both stupid expensive. They are. Now, they do hold their value a little bit better, but Ducati just doesn't really hold its value compared to Harley. But you're still gonna have to pay, even for a piece of shit Ducati Monster, you're gonna pay like $3 grand. Whereas my bike I bought my bike, this bike I'm riding right now, I bought it for $2,800 in 2013, and it's a 2007 model, and it had less than 9,000 miles on it. So I think you could maybe buy a Yamaha FZ6 similar year for right now for probably around $2,500 if you found a good deal. So that tells you that I've ridden this bike for over 30,000 miles for 7 years, and I could probably still sell it for $2,500, right? Or very close to that, because that's just what it's worth. A Ducati, it's not gonna be like that, right? And then again, the downside to owning them is that, man, if anything ever does happen bad, I mean, I'd be surprised if you got out less than $1,000 if you actually went to a Ducati dealership. They're gonna charge you $500, I think, just to bring it in, even if they don't do anything. They'll say they did, you know, like an inspection. So I mean, the newer bikes are, there was a Ducati dealership where I was in Redmond, and they all shut down. It wasn't because they weren't selling. I think the guy that owned them was in some sort of lawsuit or something, I don't know. But there was never anyone in there. I mean, it's just, you know, it's so expensive just to get started. I don't even think you can buy a bike in there for less than like probably $10,000 is like the cheapest bike they have in there, and that's probably for like the most basic, I don't even know what they're called now, probably Ducati 6, like a Monster or a 620, I don't know. I'm not sure what they call them anymore, but if you look on Craigslist or Facebook, like I said, even a junky one is going to be like a 15-year-old Ducati Monster that looks kind of crappy. It's still going to be, the guy's probably going to be asking $3,000 to $4,000 for it, which you could buy a nice Japanese bike for that, like a relatively newer one with low miles that's really clean. But you know, it's just the same thing. It's the reason why people like them, because not a lot of people ride them, and you know, they put up with the fact that they're not very reliable because they're unique. So I personally have never ridden a Ducati. Maybe I would ride one and be like, man, this is such a unique experience. I love the way the engine sounds. I love the, you know, just the feeling of the bike. Maybe I would say that. I don't know. I can't say definitively because I've never ridden one. So that's Ducati. Not reliable. I don't think people really ride them that much. Even the touring bikes, like they had a bike called the Multistrada, which really isn't a touring bike, but I guess they sold it as a touring bike. It kind of looks, it's kind of like a thinner version of a V-Strom, and it's not as heavy, or at least it doesn't look as heavy. And I see one like a 2004 Multistrada, 18,000 miles on it, or you know, 2005 Multistrada, 26,000 miles on it. I mean, that's not a lot of miles. If you see a 2004 Honda Goldwing, a 2004 Suzuki V-Strom, they're typically going to have like, I mean, some of them have close to 100,000 or more, because people actually use them. So I think more than anything, the reason why people buy a Ducati is because they buy it because of the name. It's a brand thing, and they probably are like weekend riders. I personally don't know anyone that owns a Ducati and actually rides it like all the time, right? It's more of a garage queen, or it was kind of an impulse buy because, you know, it's Italian and it's really exotic. You know, it's like buying you could buy like a Italian vehicle. Obviously you're not going to buy a car, because you're not going to buy like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, or even like what is it now, Alfa Romeo? Is that Italian? That's obviously a lot cheaper, but you know, you can get an Italian made bike for $15,000 to $20,000, like a really nice one. So it's not like it's an insane amount of money if you wanted like a nice garage piece to show your friends and stuff, if you're a relatively well-off person. But I just don't think people use them, because I don't think they're that practical, you know, to be ridden like a lot. They're kind of designed to just be like weekend toys and look cool, and not they're not really functional. And God, like I said, I hope you never have to go to the dealership with one of them, because you're gonna have to start selling off your assets just to pay for the bill.